everybody, and welcome back to Resolutions for Recovery. We're talking about grief recovery today, and we're talking about STIRBS. One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a little acronym, and everybody STIRBS, those short-term energy relieving behaviors.
Yes.
So things that we will do when we are experiencing any sort of emotion that we'd rather not feel, we can go into, and everybody kind of has their STIRBS. Food was from when I was this big, it was the thing that I went to, and even if you think about food in particular, how often do you hear parents will say, to that little girl that we were talking about earlier that comes home and the little girls were mean to me, and it's don't feel bad, here, have a cookie, you'll feel better.
Yes.
And interesting, especially if you look at childhood obesity.
I know.
In the world.
Yes.
I mean, it's like astronomical.
Yes.
And the thing is, so here's a parent, they see their little boy or girl.
They just want them to feel better.
They want them to feel better.
Have a nice pop.
And so they give them sugar of some sort. And sugar, it changes the chemicals, right?
Yes.
It maybe feels a little bit, it gives a little feel-good shot. And so what parents don't realize is that is something that can be set up later on. So fast forward, so there's that, kid that when they start to learn, if I don't like the way I'm feeling, if I eat something, I will change how I feel.
Yes.
Fast forward 10, 12, 13 years later, now they're at school and they had their first heartbreak. And so another kid comes up and says, hey, don't feel bad.
Have a beer.
Have a beer.
Have a
Smoke
joint.
a joint.
Yep.
And they're already conditioned to doing something, ingesting something, smoking something outside.
Something to change the way I feel.
And no parent is ever thinking about this.
Of course not.
You don't realize, that. And
you just want your child to feel better.
Exactly. And especially, I grew up, my grandmother, who I love dearly, my Grandma Russo, and, she was just this warm, everything was food.
Yes.
In
an Italian family, everything.
Italian family.
Yes.
And
that's how you show love.
Exactly.
Let me cook for you.
Everything is around food. And here, eat this and have this and eat more. And it just was, part of the culture.
And you're going to eat because it's, Nona will,
It's insulting.
So what do you want chicken cutlets? No, I'm not hungry. All right, sit down. Here it is. Eat.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just not even an option.
You want iced tea or tea?
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Okay, you'll have iced tea.
Both.
You want a cake? You want cookies? Okay, here you go.
I know.
It's
part of it. And,
it's part of it.
And the thing about STIRBS, by the way, is that they work.
Yes.
They just work short term.
Yes, they do. They make you feel good for the moment in time.
Exactly.
But when you wake up in the morning after eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's the night before, you say, oh, God.
Yeah, so then you're dealing with the remorse and what did I do?
Right.
And interesting, kind of moving it back to addiction, is if that was set up for you early on and you have the genetic predisposition, okay? And so throughout your life, you are experiencing these losses and these overabundance of emotions that are getting stuffed down because you're not given a place to process through in the normal and natural way. And somebody offers you that beer or that glass of wine or that Xanax or that, that joint, whatever it is, you just lit the pilot light to addiction.
Yeah.
So, and
you started the wildfire.
Exactly.
And, and it's not even, there are people that just can't talk about their feelings either. They don't know how to. So, I know in substance use, it seems to be that there are more men that are predominantly effective, more so than women. That's changing in today's world. But it used to be, and ironically enough, little boys. Boys don't cry. Boys don't do this. Boys don't do that. Little girls are given the option. It's okay for girls to cry. It is. It's just part of who they are.
Yeah.
It's okay for little boys to cry too.
Yes. And the thing is most of the time, by the time somebody is calling me or coming to my office, they've somehow been able to manage through whatever it is.
Well, we find very interesting ways to manage.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, all of this loss that's accumulating throughout one's life, some more than others, eventually what I see happening is that they're able to kind of cope, manage, push through until something happens. And, you know, it's not always the worst thing that has happened to them in their lives. It's just that one more thing, that straw that just broke the camel's back, and they come in and sit down in my office and they look at me and they say, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I'm just existing. I feel like life has lost its meaning. I don't know what anything's about anymore. I don't know, you know, I'm not happy. I don't have joy in my life anymore. Things that I used to love, you know, I don't love. They're just, life has lost its meaning. They begin to exist, you know, or it really is a devastating loss that all the other losses they've been able to compartmentalize.
Or now minimize compared to that.
And then this one happens and they're cut at the knees and they look and they just say, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
And then through the process of grief recovery, we get to look back at your whole life and see, like, this was just the final thing. There was all of these things that were happening. You know, people that grow up in abusive homes, you know, this is something else that really is important to say because, and listen, I don't know anybody that grew up in the perfect home.
There is no perfect home. There is never a perfect home.
Dysfunction in the best of homes, and it's just
absolutely
what it is. So if you grew up in a home where there was abuse, physical, sexual, where there were things done to you, the losses that you can experience are loss of safety, loss of trust, loss of personal space. Things that were, if maybe you grew up in a household where things weren't done to you, but there were things that needs that went unmet. So you grew up in more emotionally barren, neglectful. So those can experience, again, loss of trust, loss of safety, loss of connection, loss of love. And
there's so many things.
There's so many things. And then
so many
the loss of trust is huge because unless you go back and really heal those hurts, you know, we are who we are for reasons long past, and how we show up in relationships today is specifically tied to what has happened to us early. So if we experienced parents who, you know, were abusive, were neglectful, intended or unintended, you know, and those are the people that are supposed to provide us with everything. And listen, I don't know much about anything, but I know in order to be fully functioning adults, you know, that we are the best that we can be, we have to have had our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual needs met. And all of us, to some extent or another, didn't get that.
Absolutely.
Some more than others. And so, you know, we show up in relationships guarded, you know, not untrustful.
I think that people also compare losses. Well, I didn't have it as bad as, oh my goodness, look at that, I'm okay.
Yes, I don't need to get help.
Right. And I think you can never minimize what's going on inside of you.
Yeah. And I think that if anything I see, people minimize.
People always minimize.
Because you've been in your own skin for however long. This has been your life.
And it's easier to say, oh, no, it's really okay.
Well, it's like that, you get used to it. It becomes what's familiar. You don't even recognize that the abnormal has become the normal for you.
Right.
You know, so I think that out of most people will tend to do that. You know, and, you know, then there are other people that, you know, look at somebody who's going through something and, you know, they say, oh, I don't know, you know, you don't know what I've been through. You know, what you're talking about is like nothing. And so what that person doesn't deserve to get the help. Everybody grieves every loss at 100%.
And you know, you're not here to judge or criticize what anybody else does.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's interesting when people now that I see are just losing their parents, and their parents are in their late 80s, early 90s, and I lost my mom and dad. They were seemingly young compared to what it is, but I don't ever say anything especially after taking the course out loud, like, well, you know, we are supposed to bury our parents. That's just a fact.
Yes. Yes.
We are going to bury our parents at some point in time.
Yeah.
It is unnatural to bury your child,
Yes.
but that doesn't make my loss bigger, badder. You know, not going to bring that up.
Yeah. Because I appreciate you saying that, especially because I know in my family when my brother died, to this day, people will still come up and say, "How are your parents? How are your parents?" And absolutely, I have no idea. I don't have kids myself. I can't even imagine what it is that my parents are going
feeling.
through.
Right.
And I also know that, you know, it is equally unnatural for me to have buried my brother
Absolutely.
at 40 years old. You know, we were supposed to, you know, raise our families together,
Yes.
go the distance.
Yes.
And I think sibling loss is very discounted as well. And
You know, my son was 18. He was a senior in high school.
yes.
And my daughter was all of going to be 23.
Yeah, and so Thomas, you know, the three of them, they were supposed to, you know,
Go through life together.
take care of you one day
Yes.
together, you know, all of these things.
Just always have those adventures
Yes.
that they always thought that, you know, their mom and dad didn't know about,
Yes, yes.
but we did.
Yeah.
Especially me.
Yeah,
And then playing,
not much got past you.
Yeah, and playing dumb, because you know what, I'm one of 5. So kids do all the same kind of adventures, and you have to just giggle and let them have that space
Yeah.
where they think that's just theirs.
Yes.
Because it's fun.
It is.
It's the adventures of being a child.
Part of growing up.
But you know, watching, especially, you know, I'll use Andrew being profoundly devastated at 21 that his brother wasn't there, to seemingly that manhood age,
Yeah.
to bring him to be standing next to him.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine when he's going to get married what that will, you know, feel like for him.
Yeah.
The happiest and worst day again of his life, because we're always somehow, you know, walking that tightrope.
And there's the conflicting feelings.
Yeah.
You know, greatest day in the world of being married, and I also can't believe that my brother is not here to share it.
Exactly.
I think I noticed that in the first, you know, holidays without Rick, is that, you know, trying to, you know, I thank God I had grief recovery in my life, to use the tools that I had for anything that was unfinished for me with him. And then also going through this, watching the family unit grieving that, because everybody's now trying to get their grounding without him being here. And what do the holidays look like? And
let's not talk about them, because then we'll all just be sad.
Yeah, and then, but meanwhile, it's normal. Isn't that a normal and natural thing? But if we don't feel safe to, you know, I don't want to cry because I don't want to upset Dad.
Right.
You know, but meanwhile, Dad may be sitting there really needing some release.
Yes.
And perhaps if I take the risk, you know, and I think another point, you know, a lot of times I'll see parents who are experiencing the loss. Maybe it was, they have young children and their husband or wife passed, and, you know, they'll, you know, have this idea that they need to be strong for their kids, to not show emotion, and yet the child is there and they know something is going on. They can pick up the cues that something sad has happened. And so what does the parent do? Hopefully the parent is saying, it's okay, do you want to talk? It's okay, you can cry. And yet the parent is not modeling healthy grieving.
Correct.
So you as a parent, if you have young children, it's so important to know that, you know, if you're asking somebody to be emotionally honest, you got to go first.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're not serving anybody, much yourself or your child, by trying to hold it together.
And I know I did that after my divorce.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
didn't
people
want my kids to feel insecure, because I thought I would make them nervous
Yeah.
by showing them that I also was
Yes.
scared
Yes.
or frightened in the moment that we were, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that that's so many people think that,
Yeah.
you know, it's like as the parent, what is my role?
Right.
You know, yes, you definitely, that role is to, you know, give that sense of that
Safety.
Safety. And so the only thing I would say with that is that, you know, kids, especially young kids, they're so intuitive.
Yes.
You know, so they can sense that something. And so if they're looking at you and they're saying, you know, well, you know, mom's being so strong.
Yeah.
But I don't feel strong, but I want to be like mom, then it puts them at odds with their own emotional nature.
Yes.
And that is where the myths, I think, start. So, you know, for parents maybe that are watching, you know, I've seen my sister-in-law do this with my niece Vera, you know, was Rick's daughter.
And how old is she?
She's 5.
Okay.
She was 4 when Rick died.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
She's a baby.
she was. But what I think is so beautiful about her grief is that because I was able to kind of get in and say, you know, it's really, we want to make it a safe place that she can talk openly about.
Yes.
And she does. Sometimes, you know, we're getting gutted as she's, you know, talking about
Yes.
how she misses him and
Yes.
she's so sad. And so, you know, we acknowledge that with her. We say, yes, you know, I miss your daddy too. And do you feel sad? Yes, Aunt Gwen, I feel sad. And I watch her and she may tear up and I may tear up and I say, well, I feel sad too. It's okay to feel sad. Sometimes we feel sad and sometimes we feel happy.
Yeah.
And I watch her, and it usually is a period of maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And, you know, she'll tear up, I'll tear up, and we'll talk about it. And then all of a sudden, she turns
She's
and
joyous.
she goes, oh, look, Aunt Gwen, a puppy.
Yeah.
And she's done. She didn't have to stuff it down.
Right.
It came to her. She talked about it. She shared how she was feeling. It was a safe place. And then she was on to the next moment.
You know, we always talk about
Processing.
that proverbial onion. So children, you know, up until you're a young adult, really 20, even in your 20s, life has not beat you down with a lot of other stuff. So she does. It's not being simple. It's not being anything else. It's just being 4.
Yep.
And emotions don't have to last for a long period of time because their mind is so busy doing other things that, yes,
Well, and it's,
she can move in and out of many different emotions.
as can we.
Yes.
If we can unlearn some of the things
Yes.
of that it's not okay to cry because of watching everybody else's reactions around us, people shoving tissues in our face, that our bodies and our minds and our hearts are meant to be processing
Yes.
units, not storing.
Not storing. That's a great-
How great would it be to really be able to, and I haven't mastered it yet by any stretch of the means, that when we have an emotion come up, out, process through in the moment that it's happening, to free us up for the next moment
Yes.
when a different emotion and experience will
And
come.
I have found that journaling or writing helps tremendously with
Yes.
that. Because when you can just sit and not look at what the world has done to you, but how have I shown up and what could I do better, different, or more of? And put words to that. And then actually change your behavior. The behaviors that happen to you will change also.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you don't have a safe person around,
Right.
and a safe person is somebody that allows you to be
You.
who you are, what you are, feelings, everything in the moment that you're having it, then journaling is the next best thing. Because sometimes, you know, I tell people, I'm like, listen, I don't want you going to anybody and, you know, start talking about, you know, as when we're talking about grief and loss, you know, we're so sensitive and so many people don't know how to just hold a space. And that's one of the things I love about grief recovery, is that it is baked into the process where you
Yeah.
get a chance to practice being a heart with ears. To
Yes.
just know that somebody is sharing something. You know, grievers are not broken. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be listened to with
Yeah.
dignity and respect. Interesting enough, you know,
All people, you know, doing peer recovery coaching in the hospital, whether it be with the identified person or the family, that's all you have to be.
yeah.
tell me what's going on.
Yeah, just listen.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yes. What
You know?
happened?
What
What's
happened?
going on?
You know, acknowledge it.
And you just might be the one person that this person comes across that won't interrupt.
And I've taken that grief recovery and put that in there because clinically, you say something and a counselor or therapist or whatever is going to say, oh, let's talk about that further.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not done.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Can we finish what I was
Yeah.
even thinking?
And just think about that.
But why are you telling me this is wrong right now?
Yeah. Because they're trying to fix
Right.
and advise. And when you're in grief, it's so emotional. And there's really no right or wrong.
There is no right or
You said it
wrong.
earlier. I forget what you were talking about, but I picked up on it. The shoulds.
Yes.
Like, you know, you can tell me all day
Shoulda,
long.
coulda, woulda.
I shouldn't feel this way. I should feel grateful. Let me say, you know, just because somebody told me, or even if I tell myself, you know how many times I've shown up in a situation and I'd say, you know, you shouldn't be so angry right now. You should be feeling more patient. You should be feeling gratitude. Let me tell you, just because I told myself I should feel
Right.
a certain way did not equal that I was able to feel that way. I
Right.
felt how I felt. I acknowledged it. And then, yes, if there are some actions I want to take to reframe something, to, but it's never going to be at the expense of me shutting down what shows up normally and naturally for me in any situation.
Absolutely. I think, you know, sometimes when you're interacting with other people, you want to shut down your emotions.
Yeah.
So I've learned to just say, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have to go wherever I have to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can't handle what I need to handle at that moment in time, I don't want to stuff it down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to change what I'm feeling just because it's going to make you feel uncomfortable.
And you know, it's interesting because at the group last night, doing grief recovery group for Thomas's Hope, you know, one of the things I love to talk about is, you know, I call them the promises of grief recovery. And, you know, these are the things, like, what does recovery and grief mean? How do they go together? And so there's several things that, and one of them is recovery means learning that it is perfectly okay to feel sad from time to time, to express that sadness outwardly, despite how anybody or everybody around you might be perceiving it. So and I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
Because that whole myth of grieve alone, that it doesn't feel comfortable for me to emote outwardly in front of people because I'm so aware of their discomfort around me normally and naturally emoting. You know, people don't know what to do with that.
If I don't talk about Linda's son, then it didn't happen, or it doesn't exist.
It's one of the saddest things.
It is, because that just shows people don't know how to.
They don't.
They
Because they feel like they have to fix you.
Yes.
They feel like that there's something that, you know, you must
He's in
do.
a better place.
Ugh, gross.
I'm going to punch you in the face. Because that's what I want to say to people.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
So I'm going to walk away from you right now because what you just said is offensive to me.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, when you go through grief recovery, one of the things you learn is that, you know, we learn to forgive people who it's like they know not what they do.
Yes.
They know not what they say because they're trying to be helpful, but
They are.
They don't understand that
Right.
these comments, although, you know, intellectually accurate, spiritually accurate.
Correct.
Even, you know, it's like they're in a better place. Well, we certainly hope that's true, and for
Correct.
many of us we believe that, but I'm here
Right. And they're not.
and they're not.
Right.
And in this moment, I don't care where they are, I want them here.
Correct.
So something that again is so overused in the sense of, you know,
I just simply tell people who say those things to me, you know, that's an offensive thing. I know that you mean well. Better for you to say to me, I have no words for you, and give me a hug,
yeah.
than to say anything else. I know you're looking for the right words. There are no right words for me. Just acknowledge that.
Yeah.
and we'll all be better off.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you don't know what to say to me, and it's okay.
And so many people will say to me, you know, Gwen,
They're uncomfortable in that space.
yeah, if you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that, what do you say?
Nothing.
And I say, the best thing to say is, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here to
But
listen.
mean that too.
Exactly.
Because a lot of well-meaning people will say, I'm here for you anytime, and then, because this is what will happen on the other side of the coin, and this is from many different people that I work with. I call, and they never call me back, and they always answer their phone, but they never answer it for me. So what you've created in that person struggling is, they don't want to hear from me. Real or imagined,
Yep.
you know, it doesn't really matter, but you have evoked feelings of abandonment of a friendship because you really don't want to hear me grieve.
Yeah. And I think it's
And
really,
that's sad.
yeah, and I think that that's a really good point, that when you say, I'm here for you,
Mean it.
be specific and mean it.
Yeah.
And know, I think one of the biggest reasons that people will avoid a griever is because they think that they have to come up with something. What am I going to say to make
Something
this
clever
better?
enough to make this all better.
Exactly.
There is nothing that's ever going to make anything all better.
Right. So if you know that going in, that there is nothing that I can do or say, it makes it easier for me to be there and hold a space,
Yeah.
because not only do I not know what to say, there really is nothing I can say to take this away from them.
You know, around Tom's birthday and stuff, his friends that are still around, I send them a message. Send me a Tom story tomorrow that's going to make me smile.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Gwen, for
Oh,
your
it's such
time.
a pleasure. Anytime.
We are going to have Gwen's information up at Thomas's Hope website. Do yourself a favor, and if you really want to improve who you are in 2019, great first step. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.